Oh, and we're live. Welcome to the Expo live stream. We are talking about Unistyles today with Jacek, the creator of Unistyles, React Native Unistyles. How's it
Woo!
going, Jacek?
Thank you. Thanks for having me today here. We have a lot to cover, and I'm happy about that.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. A lot of good demos we're gonna have. So while we're letting folks stream into the chat here, or move into the stream, whatever we're going on. As folks join, we were wondering who is joining us for App.js. App.js is, I believe, May 28th to 30th in Krakow, and I'm going. Jacek, it sounds like it's a lot closer of a drive for you.
Yeah, for me, it's super close. I can like drive for 1 hour, and I will be there. So you can meet me too in Krakow at App.js Um, whoever will be there, say hi to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, in the chat, yeah, let us know if you're joining us or you're thinking about joining us at App.js and where you're coming from. I'll be flying from Cleveland, Ohio, USA. So that's like 14 hours and 2 transfers. I think I go through Toronto. But actually, I'm going to Local First Conference, which is starts the Monday before in Berlin. So I will jump from Berlin to Krakow, which is actually not a direct flight. I think I have to go through Munich too. So I will have I think I lost count how many hops that is.
Yeah, some
Lots.
stuff. Hopefully, you can code something in the plane, and
Yeah, yeah. If I get good sleep, I'll code. If I don't get good sleep, I'll play video games and watch movies. Which isn't the worst. I have a lot of video games to catch
yeah,
up on.
yeah. What do you play? Like, do you play something on the PlayStation or on your computer?
Lately, I've been using the analog pocket, so playing a lot of
Oh,
classic. I mean, by default it plays cartridges from Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Gear
oh,
if you had an adapter, but it also has the open FPGA where you can add like basically anything that's like 8 or 16-bit. So I was recently like going through the Mega Man series, and it's all sorts of stuff. Fantasy Star 4, I think, was a recent one. Do you play games?
cool. Yeah, so I own PS5,
Oh,
but
nice.
like I'm not a player. Like sometimes from time to time, I play something, but most likely like multiplayer games for 15 minutes, and that's all. I'm going back to the keyboard and try to ship something like Unistyles.
That's a good idea. All right. Yeah, we're 3 after. We got a lot of folks in the stream now. So we'll officially get started. Welcome everyone to the Expo live stream. We have Jacek here, the creator of React Native Unistyles, kind of a continuation of our styling series from late last year, where we're talking about built-in styling, native wind, Tamagui, and now we're talking about Unistyles. So there's all sorts of great styling options, and I'm really excited to learn more about Unistyles. How you doing, Nasik?
Great, thank you. So I'm also happy about this topic because we have only like few or four options out there. And one of these options is obviously Unistyles. But if you look back 2, 3 years ago, we had only like Tamagui and Native Wind. So, more libraries, more frameworks, or however you call it, it's better for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so introduce us to Unistyles. Like, what was the inspiration for making it? And yeah, why did you make it? And kind of who is the person who might be most interested in using Unistyles?
Yeah, of course. So I guess the story is the same as of any library out there. 2 years ago, one client of ours reached to us and asked us about like building some kind of mobile app for Android and for iOS, but with like a small note that maybe in the future they would like to use also like the web version of the of the application. So obviously we use Expo, and when I did research, I noticed that we have only two libraries out there. It was Tamagui and Native Wind. Native Wind was not that popular at the time, and Tamagui like started to ship the first features for web. So I decided that maybe we will build something super simple for the client, like to cover all the features. And one more thing, client already had like hundreds of screens prepared in the Figma, so it was like tough to use one of the libraries out there and somehow build the components, with the teams and so on. So that's why I created like the first version. It was tightly coupled with the code base, so no TypeScript. Like it was written in TypeScript, but it was not possible to pass the team type or breakpoints type. So it was like built in the application. And after we finished the application, after I guess 1 year, I decided to like open source it. So the first version of Unistyles, publicly available, landed, I don't know, like it was like 1 year ago, around November, I guess, something like that. And from this time, I focused on the version 2.0, which resolved all the issues I saw in the version 1.0. I added more native codes to also, I don't know, to learn how to use JSI and native stuff. And now we are on 3.0 beta 8, and hopefully in the next week or so we will release the first RC, and maybe around the May we will release like the stable release. So
Neat.
that's like that's the background story of the Unistyles.
Yeah, you can start to understand where the API comes from when you hear the context of that you were trying to build something, for better styling in this app with already hundreds of screens that were presumably using, built-in style sheet. So the
Yeah.
fact that it's compatible at a base level with that API, where you can do a relatively, a straightforward conversion, and those kind of start to gradually convert over to using Unistyles. So I think a lot of folks can relate to that, wanting to really level up their styling, but having a lot of existing code that they have to work around there.
Yeah, that's true. So
Cool.
I also wanted to stick to style sheet because like it feels like like natural when you use React Native. But of course you can use Native Wind, you can use class names. But yeah, like the latest version is built on top of the style sheet. You have the same API with some cool features on top of.
Cool. So what's new in going from 2.0 to 3.0?
Okay, so Unistyles 2.0 was like the only library out there for styling that used like C++ or I don't know, native features. Actually, I even Googled like the competitors yesterday, and I saw on the GitHub that they have no native code, no C++, nothing. So the first improvement in the version 3.0 was like total rewrite of the repo. So I use React Native Nitro modules to help me like to transfer the code from Objective-C++ to Swift. And also I like the idea of generating my bindings from the TypeScript file. It's the same idea like in the CodeGen in React Native. So whatever you use in Unistyles runtime or anywhere in the Unistyles is like it's typed. So there is no way that I can return you invalid value type and so on. So it's generated by the Nitro. And I guess the coolest feature in the Unistyles 3.0 is something I called selective updates. I'm not sure if there is any other library out there that can re-render your styles without re-renders. So it sounds hard, but we are not touching like the React Native hierarchy. It's not re-rendering, but we are re-rendering the native part. So we can see something similar with the reanimated. They use the same stuff, the same like logic for the animation. But I moved a little bit further and I converted like every style sheet to a way to, don't re-render your app components and so on. And apart from that, so you have no re-renders, but I also use something called selective updates, which means that for each style sheet, for each styles, I built dependency graph. So later I know that, I don't know, your view depends on the theme, and maybe your text depends on the insets. So I can target only these styles from the C++, and we render them on the native side, so React stays unaffected. So you won't see
Oh,
re-render
neat.
of your component.
Yeah, so many everyday performance problems come down to re-rendering too much. So what's the fastest
Yeah,
way to re-render? It's to not re-render. So and yeah, I think a lot of folks can relate to, it just at least at a high level, having that experience of understanding that if you send a reanimated animation over to the native side, now you're off of the JavaScript thread. You're not continuously updating variables, which was, traditionally a severe performance bottleneck. So then just
yeah.
imagining that for styles instead of animation specifically, it makes a lot of sense.
Actually, we are using it every day with the browsers. So if you use CSS, there is no re-render.
Oh,
Even if
yeah.
you use React, yeah, you can directly update the CSS variable, and it will like magically re-render your views.
Cool. All right, we got a bunch of demos for y'all today to show you, a little bit of how Unistyles works and what's under the hood. Jacek's got the like cool ones that actually show some of the inner workings. I have the basic. Here is a newbie getting started on Unistyles, so we'll share that first. And I just want to throw out to the chat too, if you have any questions for Jacek about Unistyles, throw them in the chat, and we're going to try to make sure we have plenty of time to answer your questions. So here we go. I'll throw up my code here, and feel free to comment wherever you want, Jacek. But this is me getting started on. I'm trying to rebuild this old app that a friend and I worked on years ago that we always meant to release and never got to. This little like activity tracker thing. Every time you have
Nice.
a headache, you might track it,
Ah.
or if I'm feeling meh. So a little bit of AI. It was a good weekend of coding where I was getting help from Cursor because I'm new to Cursor, but I was also getting a lot of help from Unistyles. And I thought it was actually really cool in the Unistyles documentation. You have the LLMs.txt files, so I actually was able to pump that into Cursor. And after the first few prompts, it was quite good actually at filling things in correctly. But
That's
yeah,
great.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I guess to set the stage, of course, I'm on a development build because it does, the reason for Unistyles performance profile is because it does have custom native code. So I made my development build after installing Unistyles, of course, and everything kind of starts at this, unistyles.ts file, as I understand it, defining
Yes.
my theme. In my case, I was preferential to a dark theme. The demo was originally made before I think theming existed in the OS, but of course, because I wanted to try out the theming functionality, I went and added a light theme. And I was able, since these are just like plain old JavaScript objects, it was
Yeah.
quite easy to
You can
just go
use
change
whatever
what
you
was different.
want. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of nice. And actually, one thing I was realizing as I was going in here, as I investigated the later features, is that like less was more as I was creating these themes, because you have a lot of features inside of Unistyles that let you, say compose these together in like a full theme for your text, for instance. At one point I had more stuff in here, and then I took it out because I realized, oh, these are like your atoms here. These are not meant to be compound styles and things like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
then
these themes will be shared across all the style sheets. So, you need to also think about the performance.
right, yeah. So, and then this configure statement down here, this was one thing I thought was neat, was if you set this adaptive themes as true, and then you put the light and the dark theme in here, now it's going to automatically switch them for light and dark. You don't have to like listen to color scheme or anything like that. So I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty neat.
Yeah. No extra code That's all you need to set up adaptive themes through, and that's all.
And then from there, I was kind of off to the races in terms of defining, okay, just import style sheet from React Native Unistyles instead of importing it from React Native. And then I can go down here and define it like I would. Of course, the one really nice thing compared to the default style sheet is these actually were all, strongly typed or they were able to be inferred from TypeScript. So it was quite easy in here for me to, number one, I guess I should say too, it's passing in the theme. So I could access all the theme variables and I could start to use these to compose my styles without having to wrap everything in an extra layer of functions or inline stuff or things like that.
Or hooks.
Or hooks, yeah. No hooks.
No hooks.
Yeah. I think the only hooks I have in this app right so far are for things other than Unistyles. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. The other thing I was throwing in here too was, wrong screen. Here we go. In this case, you might notice I do a little bit of style changes when I open and close this little activity drawer. And I could actually create, these are called dynamic styles, if I'm remembering correctly.
Dynamic functions.
Dynamic functions, yes. So I could actually pass a variable in and then only change the parts that I need. And this is actually all part of my style instead of like something, where traditionally I might have had to make a compound style up here or inline this into my style object. So it was pretty nice to just be able to go like styles.add button and then toggle just what I need based on whether the sheet, the drawer is open or not. Let's see, I think the one other feature I tried, I guess a few other features I tried the breakpoints in here. And at first I was trying to do it with the media queries, which are great because you could like fine tune things. And then I realized, oh, it's so much easier if you just define breakpoints and you get to access them inside of here, which I thought was neat. So I was actually able to space it out a little more on my iPad version, make everything a little bit wider, a little bit higher. Of course, that's only like, I've only spent 5 minutes with the iPad version so far, so it's not much yet. And then what was the other one I tried? I think I tried, the Unistyles runtime was, variance. Yes, I did do a variance. Yeah, let me go to the variance first. This is the way I found that was most useful to use them is I defined, and tell me if this is right or wrong. I was thinking a lot of my experience coding with the Ignite template and how it has like kind of built-in variables for different, like your different main text variants. But I could build this with Unistyles variants instead, where I pass a color and a size, and I set like a default one where I said like, hey, by default, I'm gonna use the primary color and the medium size, but then I can let people override it in my own text component. And then I was able to use that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think you should use like the TypeScript helper, because in your component props, you defined every variant by hand.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So you can import Unistyles variants, I guess, with the capital letter. Yes, Unistyles variants. And you can now remove your color and size.
Do I have to put something else in here then?
Just remove everything. Just keep type component props is equal to text props, and that's all you need.
Oh my god!
And now you can add with the TypeScript ampersand Unistyles. Oh yeah, that's all.
Oh, and it auto completed it. Look at that. Oh, that is so cool. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad I made that mistake so you could correct me live on video. That is excellent. Yeah, so that was like when I noticed when I started using those, because the one thing that I think is sometimes like I felt when I'm using default style sheet is when I'm defining everything down here, I can have like so many things in my file that I kind of lose track of what they are. And right away, this took me from like in this little component from 3 styles defined at the bottom to 1, because I had this very much, it was very in line. I was easily able to see like, okay, this is exactly what this text is. And if I didn't have to define a property, I could just leave these blank if it was just my default text.
Correct. Also, you can define like invariants default keyword, and it will like automatically go there if you don't pass any variant from top.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can do like default. Let's see if it auto completes it for me. Yeah, you can go just like that. And yeah, so I wouldn't have needed to even do this. I could have just left this alone and it would have defaulted to
Also,
primary.
one more note. Do you know that use variance is not a hook? This is not
Oh,
a
I did
hook.
not know that.
Yeah, so this is like a JSI function, but to satisfy the
Oh,
server components and everyone, like React compiler, we had to call it use variance, but it's not like a hook.
oh, that's so interesting. Huh. So still no hooks, even if it's a use, it's not a hook. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think the last one I did on here was the well, I already showed breakpoint. Oh, the Unistyles runtime. I thought that was an interesting one to
Yeah.
highlight. And you kind of mentioned that earlier. I want to search here to remember where I put it. Here we go. Yeah, in this case, I had to actually this drawer guy. It's right. There's a million better ways to do this, but I was just asking AI to do it for me, and it just used the default pagination in the scroll view. And I was like, okay, fine, we'll deal with that. But that often relies on understanding the width of each page, which is often your screen width, especially if you want the entire thing to paginate. So this was pretty nice because I'm really used to often having to pass hooks and create complicated functions like this, where I have to like use screen dimensions or whatever. But instead, I can just import this Unistyles runtime and then get my screen width. And I think there was one other one I was using. Oh, insets. So safe area insets. I find I'm often like the safe area view is not nearly enough for me. I often want to like individually apply those insets because I want certain things to overlap the safe area and certain things not.
Yeah.
So I thought this was quite useful.
By the way, you can do it even like better and shorter. The second argument passed to such a create is runtime, so it's exactly the same runtime.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is cool. I saw that briefly
Yeah.
in the documentation and I was like, oh, what does that mean exactly? What is inside of that? And it's runtime. That's cool.
Yeah, and right now,
Awesome.
like I will build a dependency graph and I will know that your container depends on theme and insets. And whenever insets will change, for example, when user will change the orientation, I will only update your container style and re-render your component on the native side.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because that's native stuff in there. That's the
Yeah,
rotating's happening on the native side. We don't need to go all the way back to JavaScript to understand rotation. Awesome. Yeah. So that's I think that's all I got to. I know there's more stuff that you're going to show us here in a moment. But
yeah,
that's as far as I got on a weekend, which I felt was pretty far. I felt pretty accomplished.
yeah. That's cool demo. Thank you. Yeah, so I also prepared a demo about Unistyles, and I'll try to put there every feature of Unistyles 3.0. I also like prepared a demo that it's not finished, so we can see that here we have some problem with the insets. We have some problem with the like changing theme, so we can fix it. Yeah, so before we start, let me do the same thing like you did. So let's start with the Unistyles. I used this cool website where you can generate your theme. And what I did, I simply copy paste all the colors. So I won't use every color in the demo, but I can easily generate light theme and dark theme. And as we mentioned, there is no structure that you need to follow. You can put there any key, any value. You can use spreads, functions, whatever you want, and whatever you like. So I have the same setup like you did. So I have two themes. I use adaptive themes so that they will auto switch when users change the color scheme. And we can quickly show it. So here I have Rocket Sim tooltip, and I can quickly change my theme. And as you can see, this star here has a problem. It doesn't change, but we will fix that. Okay, so let's
Real quick,
showcase
what is that
the
little toolbar you have that you can
yeah.
change
So
everything? What is that called?
that's Rocket Sim Rocket Sim application. It's paid, but it helps me a lot with the accessibility options, dark theme, light theme, and so on.
Oh,
I
neat.
can write.
Cool.
Yeah. So I have like a super simple Expo starter project. I have only one screen. It's called hotels. So it's here. I have some mock data, and I have few components. The first one is header. So maybe let's start and fix the issue with the insets. So if we go to the header, and here is the style of the header, we just need to, maybe I will make it a little bit smaller. We just need to pass the second argument, theme and runtime. And here we can say padding top. Of course, you have autocomplete from TypeScript, so RT insets top. And that's all. As you can see, you don't need to use React Native Safe Area hooks to re-render your views. You can simply do it on the native side. So there are no re-renders if user will switch the orientation. Oh, sorry, I locked my computer. Yeah, sorry. I have like a hot corner on the right.
Oh no. Yeah, go ahead and share it
Yeah.
again. We'll put you back up there.
Yeah, let me share present. Window, entire screen. Yeah.
All right, here we go again.
And right now we can also change the orientation. And as you can see, we have the same problem, like our notch or dynamic island is breaking the layout. So what we're gonna do, like this is also super easy. You need to go to the list component. So let me go to the index. And here we have our scroll view. And we have hotels container. So here we can add padding horizontal. We also need to use runtime to make it dynamic. And we can use rtiny insets right. Yeah, looks good. But if we switch to the left side, we need to also use left here. So we can do simple trick and use math max. Yeah, right and left. So when we switch to the other side, it will also be moved. So we can do the same with the header. So let's go to the header. And as you can see, we can right now, we have insets. And let's remove this one. And here on top, right now, iOS reports from the native side that top inset is 0 because we have no problems to display anything. But we can use the same math max to either show top or some kind of value, like I have a helper function. It multiplies the 8 pixels, so it will be 16. And right now, we can use it in every orientation.
I'm sorry if you showed it earlier because I had a little bit of a network issue, but that helper function, so that's like built into your theme?
Yeah, so this is my function that will multiply your value by 8. Yeah.
I did not realize you could put a function right in the theme. That's cool.
You can, yeah. And we also have the same problem with the minimal value. So we should also put here like the theme gap 2, and the same in the here in gap 2. And let's reload. Cool. So right now we have everything. So with the simple runtime, you can map your insets wherever you want, and it works without re-renders. If you want to also confirm that we have no re-renders, we can add to our index.ts screen like alert rendered. Yeah, so for the first time you have alert, but if you switch your theme, for example, there is no alert.
Ah,
And the
cool.
same if you switch the orientation, there is no re-render. You can also use React Scan if you want. I didn't install it here. Okay, so we have runtime. So I guess everyone knows now that you can use like the second argument here to access runtime. In runtime, you have access to multiple things. So you can, for example, let's add here like RT. So you have insets, you have breakpoints, you have color scheme, a lot of cool stuff that you should definitely check out when you install Unistyles. You can even access like the status bar height here. So whatever you need.
Oh. Yeah, I really appreciate
Okay.
the the easy access to a lot of these different, insets and these other elements. Hopefully I'm not the only, like, I'm not showing my lack of skill by admitting this, because I feel like I'm not the only one, but I feel like a number of us have often just like kind of been like, let's deprioritize making this look good on landscape and just lock it to portrait. Because most people will
Yeah.
use it that way, but like then you miss out on these opportunities that, like, there's a lot of missed expectations where, like, oh, I wish this would rotate to landscape and look good. And this seems like you could get there a lot quicker and not worry about as much about weird edge cases where it's going to look bad.
Yeah. Also, you don't need to install many dependencies. If you just want to access your screen height or width, of course, you can do that by importing dimensions from React Native. But if you put the dimensions in the style sheet, they won't be dynamic. So that's the problem. Here with Unistyles runtime, every value is dynamic. It's up to date. Okay, so we have demo with orientation. Now let's check the problem with the dark mode. So we have one issue here, like the star is not updating. And why is that? If you use Unistyles 3.0, you need to know that I can only update React Native components. If you use, for example, Expo image or any other like view from Expo or any other view from community, I'm not able to access shadow node and do the magic in the C++ and update it. So the same idea goes to the icons, because icons are based on React Native SVG. So this is like a third-party view, and we need to do something else to update them. So if we go to the hotel card here, we can see that we have our star. And star is imported from Lucid React Native. But as you can see, there is no mention about the color or anything like that. So we can, of course, do something like color is equal to and pass here the value, but it won't be dynamic because your React component won't re-render. So the other way to fix that is to use with Unistyles. So if we go to Unistyles and import with Unistyles, we can convert any component to React Native Unistyles aware component. Right now, I'm mapping the props. So here we have IntelliSense for every props from the icon. So we can override it. You can map it to the team. For example, you have one size coded in your team. And so you can map it here. Also, this mapping will be triggered whenever the team will or runtime will change. And right now, the only thing you need to do, you can simply use style star here. And we will re-render. Or I used different color. Let me check other components, because I have like multiple colors in the theme. So let me go to the header. And here I used background. Yeah, so we have like now right now the black icon, and we can switch the theme. and only icon will re-render. Right now it will re-render, but we are making sure that only icon will re-render. It won't affect any other component. And and also each component wrapped in with Unistyles is aware of the dependencies. So if star depends on the team, it will only re-render on the team. If your component depends on the insets, it will only re-render when insets change. So that's like the cool wrapper for the third-party components.
Yeah, that's a helpful explanation because I was reading the documentation and noticing, okay, use Unistyles is like kind of the last resort
Yeah.
hook that will involve re-renders because it is a hook. And then with Unistyles does technically involve re-renders, but the big difference there is instead of putting that inside your component that's using your component that you want to style and risking a re-render of everything, you can now pinpoint the re-render, the like necessary re-render because this component doesn't support it in the first place, but pinpoint it just to that component, which is much more efficient. That's cool.
Yeah, and keep in mind that it's only for third-party components, not reactive components. For reactive components, you don't need to do anything. It will work out of the box. Okay.
Would you use with Unistyles to like in that process of converting a component to be compatible with it? Could you also allow it to pass another style prop that then gets passed down and translated to those props? Or is it?
So it's also possible to update third-party views without re-renders. We have a Babel plugin for that, but you need to like have a knowledge about the low level algorithm of the Unistyles, but it's possible. We are doing such with the reanimated components, with gesture handler components, so it's possible. But for the icons, it's better to simply like map the props to the team and it will work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so you also showed the variants. I also prepared variants here. So I have typography component. It's responsible for the like displaying text in the application. And I used few variants. As you can see, I have also default variant. I also defined title, subtitle. We can also use Boolean variants. So we can pass directly from the prop true or false. It will map to true or false if you defined false here. So this is my variants. And here, as I mentioned, this is not a hook. This is like a function called use variants. It's for React. It's for React compiler. It's for server-side rendering and so on. So we need to keep it with the best practices with the React. And here we can also showcase one more feature that was introduced in the Unistyles 3.0. We can use compound variants. So compound variants are based on the variants. So here I defined variant size, variant is bold, and variant color. I can add additional logic if some conditions are met. So for example, if size is one more object. If size is, for example, what we have here, title. I need to move it out of the variants because I moved it to the variants. Just a second. Here, variants. Yeah, it's here, compound variants. So if I use size title, maybe I'll copy it. Because maybe I'm messing with the indentation here and I have small. Yeah, okay. So if, for example, we pass is bold true and color is this one, we can apply extra styles. So if I save, you can see that my location is highlighted now. So one of my components had bold and this color, so we can apply extra styles here. We can also apply multiple like conditions here, so you can build extra logic for your components. Okay,
Yeah, it was.
that's not all.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No. Please.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about how in your documentation you have this example of applying like an underline and maybe even like a different color to a link, and that was like my next step with my text component that was having the compounds the variants passed into it, or the variant parameters passed into it, was like how nice that is to, like, if you have, sometimes text has links, sometimes it doesn't, and just being able to kind of have a text component that adapts with that little syntax to when you show a link. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's why you should also pay attention to the details. As you mentioned at the beginning of the stream, in your team, you had like multiple properties for text, for button, for any other component. But right now, with the variants and compound variants, you should actually map these props and put them in the component and only use like the colors and sizes from the team. It's better, it's faster.
Okay, cool. Real quick, I was wondering if we could get a few questions in here before you
Sure.
keep going there. So we got a few queued up here. We have Sebastian asking, I have a UI kit package mono repo, and styles are typed as view style, text style, like in style sheet, but Unistyles seems not to like this. How to use previously defined type styles with Unistyles? Now, it seemed like that actually worked for me because I did use text. Well, I guess I didn't use text styles. I used text props. So I'll let you answer the question.
So I guess, do you use like, if I understand it correctly, you use the view style or as like a constant name, like view style is equal to style sheet create. If that's the case, I fixed this bug like yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like the Babel like things. This is like the React component because you use capitalized letter. So right now you can use like view style, text style, or any other capitalized letter if you assign like to the constant or let from the style sheet create. So I think it should be resolved with the latest nightly.
Cool. So yeah, the answer is update. That's a great answer. One other one in here was Rhythmic has, is it possible to compose custom themes with light and dark theme? For my use case, we have different color schemes for the app, which have their own light and dark mode. So this almost sounds like the scoped theming, perhaps.
So first of all, you can define as many themes as you want. Like you can have 100 themes. Right now, we have only 2 reserved words, which is light and dark, and you can only have 1 light and 1 dark component, like 1 dark and light theme. But you can disable adaptive themes, and you can use own logic to switch between like your own themes. This is like a convenience to use a simple dynamic. It was called. Sorry, adaptive themes. True. So you don't need to use that. You can use your own logic. Yeah.
So those could be like 2 dark themes and 2 light themes, and the adaptive theme right there is it's literally mapping that use color scheme string or the equivalent of that over to your theme name, so it can do the switching automatically. But you are perfectly at liberty to read light and dark mode yourself and apply a theme of your own choosing based on that.
Based on the user preferences, yes. You can disable adaptive themes and use Unistyles runtime.set theme and use your theme.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll let you proceed now. Yeah, we'll have a few more questions that we'll probably hit up a little bit later. But yeah, keep asking questions if you have any in the chat while we still have Jacek on here.
Yeah. Okay, that's not all about the insets. So here we can do one more demo. So if we move our header to the bottom of the screen, let's do that for a second. Right now we have like a header on the bottom. And if you click here and press Command key, you can toggle the keyboard. And as you can see, there is a problem because I would personally use like React Native keyboard controller to handle this case, or React Native like aware view and so on. Yeah, you need to push the content. But for such cases, you can simply use insets too. So here, I will copy my snippet. I have it here. Okay. So let's move to our scroll view and to our container. And we can simply use inset IME. This is like the keyboard. Is the native name for the keyboard. So you can translate your view whenever we push the keyboard. So if you click it, as you can see right now, you have out of the box like pushing the view without any third-party dependency.
Very cool.
Okay, let's move it to the top one more time. Okay, we are back. Now, I already mentioned, because I have on my list Unistyles runtime, but you already covered it. You can set theme there. You can toggle adaptive themes based on the user preferences. You can read any value that is also accessible from the style sheet. It's always up to date. It won't re-render your component, so you can like follow the TypeScript and check what's there. Okay, and I also have like the dynamic functions. So for any style, you can simply wrap it in the function, and that's all. You can pass as many arguments as you want. There is no limit. So I can, for example, pass here index, and based on the index, change something like the lines and so on. So just keep in mind that you can convert your style to the function, to the dynamic function. Okay, but that's not all. Like, this is like only the surface of the Unistyles.
One more thing.
I think the coolest thing is about the web, because as you know, if you want to style something on the web, you can stick to the React Native web. So React Native web will convert your views texts to the divs and so on. So in the previous version of Unistyles, we relied heavily on the React Native web. For example, if you put inline styles, it will be in your HTML DOM treated as inline styles. If you use like something dynamic, it will be also inline styles. Of course, React Native Web will convert some properties from your styles to the classes. But we didn't like it. Like we thought about it with Hubert, like the second contributor of React Native Unistyles, to build something better. So in the version 3.0, we shipped custom compiler for web. What does it mean? It means that you don't need to rely on React Native Web. Actually, if you console log styles from React Native Unistyles on the web, there is nothing. So we don't pass anything to the React Native Web. You still need to use React Native Web to convert your views and texts and any other React Native component to the HTML compatible component. But we are handling like the styles on our side. So if we call W in the Expo console, we can see the preview of the web page. And if I inspect it, so let's move it a little bit here. We'll make it bigger. As you can see here, we have some custom classes. We have Unistyles classes. Just a second, I will also try to, yeah, okay. So here we have the same views converted by React Native Web. So there is no difference. We are only focusing on the styles. But here you can see that some components have Unistyles plus like random class name. And we use CSS variables. So here we take every color from the theme and we put it as CSS variable. And the result is, if you try to change your theme here in the browser, because I use dark theme, it will also re-render without re-render. So it will use CSS to re-render, but the React component won't re-render.
So the compiler is essentially tapping into the same functionality that would make web, style changes so performant that you kind of adapted over to mobile, and it's kind of going back and making sure, this code that we write that's previously focused on mobile is actually working the same way on web.
Yeah, as you saw, there is no like web specific code in my style sheets. And it worked out of the box with the CSS variables. If you use breakpoints, we will convert them to CSS media queries. So there is no like JavaScript media queries and so on. But that's not all. Still, that's not all. If you use Unistyles, let me close it for a second because it will be easier for me to open it again. If you go, for example, to the hotel card here, and let's say we want to scale up our hotel image on hover, but it's not possible in the React native. You can't use hover unless you use pressable with callback, which will re-render your component. Yeah, but with Unistyles, you can access something called web. So here are your web-specific styles. They will be only injected to the CSS on the browser. And here you can use whatever is accessible from the React, like web React. We have every prop supported by React. So we can use even pseudo classes. So let's say hover. On hover, I want to transform scale. Okay, so here we use web styles. So that's why we don't have like the array of transforms. We have like the web syntax. So let's open the browser. And right now we have like the hover animation. Okay, it looks awful, but we can fix that. We can add any property that is available in the CSS. So let's use transition. Yeah. And here we have like a transition.
Neat.
And the last demo I have is that you can use any other pseudo classes, like even even before, and we can write Unistyles. As you can see, like the iOS part is not changing. Like we strip web styles and we move it only to the browser. If you use before, we can open the browser, and here we have Unistyles, but we can change the color. Let's fix that. We can say color is, so we can also use here any other property and open the browser, and we have like green Unistyles. Let's change the theme. Light. Yeah, so you have like Unistyles as before of the image. What's more, I can also make one more addition, so we can make this image a little bit bigger on the web. So you already showcase it, but we can simply change any property from value to object, and based on our breakpoints from unistyles.ts, we have also here like the IntelliSense for them. So for the small breakpoint, like for the phone, we can use 200, but for the medium, we can use 500. And still, if we open the browser, we can see like the bigger images. So as you can see, yeah. Oops, again, hot corner. Sorry.
Those hot corners. It's kind of neat though
But
to
I
see
guess that's
that.
all for the demo.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect time. We got a few questions here to hit, coming in the middle of the demo, but I feel like that was a pretty intuitive approach to what like a key question is, okay, we're starting from this point of style sheet. We're keeping that similar API. So we know by default, we're kind of dealing with a subset of CSS when it comes to the web. And we could lose some of that capability and fidelity when we actually go to web. But here you have this whole escape hatch that is pretty intuitive and
Yes.
goes right next to it and is targeted at the specific properties that you need to be different on web. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we have a few
You know
questions
what?
here coming off of that. A couple of these ones are related to actually kind of what you were just showing on web, but applied to mobile.
Mhm.
Uh-oh. Oh, can you hear me okay? Okay, cool. Yeah, this question from Code Victor, how to handle press state and focus state in buttons and input respectfully. So would you just use the default pressed function that's coming into pressable to check the state, or is there something Unistyles can do there to reduce the re-renders on that?
So we use the same mechanism for the native from React Native, so you can pass callback to the pressable. But for the web, you can use pseudo classes. Yeah, so that's the answer.
So you would basically like pass the function into style with the pressed, and then just pass the pressed right to the dynamic function Unistyle, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so you can convert your pressable style to the convert it to the function, and you can use I don't remember how it's called. It's pressable something this is the type from the React Native, and you can access hover and pressed, I guess. So you can use it in the style sheet in Unistyles style sheet, and we will move it to the native side, and we will compute your styles based on the flags.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because it's just a function. I could just like if you define a dynamic function inside your style sheet already, like it's just a function. You're now passing the style,
Yes,
which is it's accepting a function. So that makes a lot of sense. Cool. Kind of related to that, we mentioned broadly that there's compatibility with reanimated. I wanted to focus this question particularly when we're talking about animated variables that then get computed into styles. How do you approach those with Unistyles?
so right now we are fully compatible with reanimated. Unistyles works the best with reanimated 4.0 beta 3. The only thing that I miss is that to use your team values in the worklets. So right now, your team is defined on the JS thread, and right now it's not like we are not able to access the team values on the UI thread, but I'm working on that. So hopefully it will be released in the upcoming weeks.
Awesome. Cool. Here we go. Let's see. I actually don't know what Shopify Restyle is. I'm curious if you do.
I know.
If you could compare it to that.
I know. Yeah, so Shopify Restyle is a library from Shopify, and it's built in the JavaScript. So that's the first difference. It also introduced some components. So as you can see, Unistyles has no components. So there is no pre-built components. I'm focusing on style sheets. So that's the second difference. And I'm not sure if Shopify still maintains the Restyle. I'm not aware of that. But you can see some similar features or syntax in Unistyles and Shopify. So if you use Shopify, you can give it a try with the Unistyles. You will feel familiar with the syntax and with the, with the additional features.
Cool. And one more here. You've kind of already talked about the performance profile. Yeah, but wondering if you want to elaborate anything in here in comparison. Obviously, there's a bunch of things that you would have to do in the JS thread in terms of dynamic styling that you would, just have to do inside of your JSX on with built-in style sheet. But yeah, I guess if there's anything to add here about the performance.
Yeah. So there is a popular library that tries to benchmark all the styling solutions out there. It's hard to compare to Stylesheet because Stylesheet has no theme, has no runtime, has no breakpoints, and so on. But you can check this repository, and from my findings, it's about 5 to 10% slower than Stylesheet. But as I said, it's hard to compare because Stylesheet has no features built in, and if you use some features, of course, it will add some time. But it's super fast. You can use it. We are actually use it in the like big projects, and we have no performance issues.
I often like to think of these questions or the answer to these questions in terms of like, what's your bottleneck? So in the case of Unistyles, it sounds like it's very focused on reducing the bottleneck of re-renders. And the more complex your theming gets, or just compound styles and all these different things, breakpoint resolution, the more complex these things get, the more likely that number of re-renders could start to become a bottleneck. So if you have that kind of problem, and you use something like Unistyles that's optimized to reduce re-renders, it sounds like that could potentially reduce your bottleneck, irrespective of like whether like base performance at a default style is 5 or 10% faster on Stylesheet versus Unistyles.
Yeah, that's true. And also, if you have like super simple application with single theme, you can even use React Native style sheet and hardcode the colors in the style sheet. You need to use Unistyles or Restyle or Tamagui. So you just need to stick to the best solution for your problem. And Unistyles is the best for the applications that have multiple teams that care about the performance, about the memory usage, and want to have no re-renders. Yeah.
Awesome. That's probably a great. But now that we're on the outer here, that's probably a great place to end it off. There is what cases you might want to use Unistyles for, and I think that's a pretty good illustration right there. So yeah, so thank you. Yeah, any last words, Jacek, before we head off here?
Yeah, so please follow me on Twitter and give Unistyles a star because we are close to the first RC. So we already use it for our clients. We already built new applications with Unistyles 3.0. So I guess it's the best time to give it a try. You can find it on React Native Unistyles repository in GitHub. And yeah, and here is my handle on X or Twitter. If you have any questions that were not answered today, you can simply like write a message to me or put your question in the tweet about today's stream. I will try to answer them.
Great, awesome, yeah. Connect with Jacek on Twitter
Thank you,
and check out
Sebastian.
Unistyles. And thank you so much for joining us and showing us really a ton of great content and information about how to use Unistyles and just about approaches to styling in general. And thanks everyone for joining the live stream. Of course, check out those links we discussed, and also look up App.js 2025. We're hoping to see a bunch of you there. All right, thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.